This week, a hot new bombshell enters the villa.
I'm Shania. I'm a content creator and a manic money spender.
I'm Valerie. I'm a serial entrepreneur and recovering perfectionist. We're here to bring you life and wellness tips, tricks, and hacks from experts
and our personal experiences.
This is the Hot Girls Cry podcast. Hey everyone, we're back with a new episode in our new studio.
Welcome back. We are in a new studio and the vibes are immaculate. We're like sitting on couches, relaxed with plants around us. We got our logo. It's a vibe.
The lights, the efficiency, the quality.
She's very official. Look at us moving on up.
So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, we are also on YouTube. So if you want to watch this episode and all future episodes, it'll be on our YouTube.
Yes, definitely. I'm so excited and thank you guys so much for the support we've had so far.
Speaking of thank you, let's do our gratitudes.
So I'm grateful for this new studio we have and the new vibes and new beginnings.
I am also grateful for this studio, but mine today was actually going to be for the doctor that I went to because I had a migraine kicking in today and she gave me this new medicine to stop the migraine in its tracks and it worked. So I am actually able to function today. So very grateful for her and the new medicine.
I love that so much. Val has always struggled with migraines and I just remember her telling me like, I will do anything to get rid of these. So that is definitely something to be grateful for.
Yes, but let's dive into today's topic. We've had a lot of requests from y'all on Instagram. Some of y'all been creeping on us, and we've had some requests to talk about our fitness journeys.
Mm-hmm. This is such a doozy because we've both had such long, tumultuous, and beautiful, and all of the adjective fitness journey. So I feel like she's going to be a doozy.
Yeah, ours are kind of similar journeys as well. And it's how we met too. We talked about in our trailer episode that we met because we were both like in the bodybuilding world and I followed you on Instagram and then we started hanging out by going to the gym together. But I think in general, both of us have been very into fitness our whole lives.
Yeah. That's crazy because our first, like the introduction into our friendship was gym dates for the longest time.
And we still have them and we do our yoga dates.
Yes, the absolute best. Every Wednesday.
Yes, ma'am. True Fusion, we coming.
Yes, ma'am. So starting from the beginning, our childhood, how did that kind of play out in terms of fitness and sports and everything for you?
For me, I played soccer growing up. I also did like Taekwondo. I have my black belt in Taekwondo.
Yeah, you do.
So I mainly played soccer, but I also did Taekwondo and I also did tumbling, a little bit of cheer, but mostly tumbling. Majority of my childhood. So I tumbled up until high school, played soccer even until now. Taekwondo was I did it. It wasn't a passion.
Okay, you slayed though, black belt.
Yeah, you should have seen me breaking those boards with my little uniform on. Like, don't mess with me.
I can see it now.
What about you though? Because you were an athlete growing up too.
Yeah. So my dad never really put me in sports. He kind of took the approach of like, whatever you want to do, I'll do. But I never had that parent that was like, you're going to be in this sport or we're just going to get you started. So I had kind of a late start to everything. I've done a lot of things. I've done track, softball, cross country, cheer. Never did soccer though, interestingly enough. But I did a lot of things and was pretty good at all of them, honestly, not to toot my own horn.
A natural born athlete.
You know, varsity and I was like a 3 freshman varsity player. Granted, my school was not the best at any sport. So
top of the bottom.
Literally. But cheerleading was definitely my main love, my main bae. Like that was the one consistent throughout all of the years of sports that I ever did. Cheerleading was always my love. And then I made the cheer team in college, but I quit after like 2 months or so because, again, I was like the top of the bottom. I always kind of got in things because I had heart. I had a lot of heart. So people,
I mean, in sports, that makes a big difference.
No, it does. I was a try hard in sports for sure. But yeah, cheerleading in college was short lived.
And when you stopped doing cheer, like what did you carry on doing from then?
So I actually started bodybuilding or training to work out for my body in high school. I would go to the gym every day my senior year. I was living with my cheer coach at the time, and I would go to our apartment gym and run 2 miles and just do the most random dumbbell exercises. Just really, it was more so the running 2 miles. And then eventually my senior year, I got a Planet Fitness membership and started dabbling a little bit more into weights, but would still continue to run those 2 miles. But what was your moment that you like started to actually go to the gym?
I didn't know you were such a runner.
When I very first started, my cheer coach always told me, you get abs by running. She always told me that. And so
Pinterest told us that too.
Well, they're not wrong. I had abs.
That's true. And I never did, and I never ran.
I just recently tried to run 2 miles again, and that is so hard. I don't know how I managed to do that every day. I have no idea. It was so hard.
Running is definitely its own commitment.
Yeah.
I played soccer, like I said, my whole life. So I was always I had like soccer legs, pretty strong. Like, you know how you can look at a girl and you can see her quads and you're like, she plays soccer.
Yeah. Same with cheer.
Yeah. And I tumbled as well. So I was just kind of built like that. And so I would always have people ask like, you either do gymnastics or soccer? And I'm like, both. But yeah, I did soccer through high school. I honestly wasn't that good because I like to think I was pretty good, but it's top of the bottom because I started club really late, and like club soccer in Texas is so competitive. Like female soccer in Texas in general is so competitive, especially in North Texas. And so I played like rec soccer growing up because we just didn't have the money to put me in club. And so I thought I was like so great, but it's because I was so great at rec. And then I got to high school and I was very quickly humbled. Like these freshman girls were over here like spinning circles around me. But I stopped playing soccer, or I played through college, like just recreationally for fun. And then when I started dating my husband, he would go to the gym, and I was like, I'm a gym girly. And I lifted in high school. Like we did a lot of weightlifting days in off season for soccer, but it was only ever legs. And then I did like in the summer, we had like, what was that training called? Where it's like 2 weeks long, it's straight like sprints and like weightlifting, and they like let all the high school athletes come for the 2 weeks. It was intense, but I did that every summer, so it was just a lot of lifting.
Okay.
So I did like lifting in that way, but it was almost all legs. And then when I started dating my husband, I started going to the gym with him, and I was like, oh yeah, I can totally lift. And he would obviously do like a typical guy, almost no leg days, all upper body days. And I'm like, well, I can't lift upper body. And I remember like he was teaching me how to do curls properly, like without swinging. And I was like with the 8s, like trying to get it, because I was just like, we didn't have upper body strength, because why would we?
Yeah.
Like besides tumbling.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to like get better at the gym, because when I get into something, I get into it 2000%. So then that's when I started to like really look into like YouTubers, and this was like 2014. And so that was when like girls and fitness YouTube was at its prime. Like it was taken off.
Era.
Paige Hathaway, Nikki Blackadder. She was the one I found on YouTube where I was like, I'm this girl's size. Like I can lift. So then I started to get into like actually lifting in the gym.
Yeah, that was such an iconic era.
It really was, because we were just so excited.
We really were. And it was, I don't know, there was something about it. It was the onset of social media in general. And it felt like, to me, I'm sure there was so many different niches that people felt, but it felt like to me, if you were like Instagram famous at all, it was fitness related, which is probably not true. It was probably it
was definitely like the takeoff of the fitness influencer community, because you even took off at that time too, like as a fitness influencer.
Definitely not Paige Hathaway or Nikki Blackadder level, but that is how you found me.
This is true. And what more could you ask for?
Nothing. I got what I needed from that.
So when did you start bodybuilding?
So I went to college, was just super in the gym daily, just for aesthetic reasons. So it was bodybuilding then. I was still running my 2 miles, but I started to get a lot more into heavy weightlifting. I met a bunch of people who were into the same thing and really started to see changes in my body around that time. I spent a year in college, came home, continued that. And whenever I came home from college after that year, that's when I really started to get into Instagram and posting my and posting my workouts and all of that. So I just really started lifting heavy and was just spending an hour or two in the gym every day just focusing on my lifting. And I was super into nutrition at that time too. So I just hired a coach and he put me on like a 12,000 calorie meal plan.
12,000?
Yeah, it was really low. Oh, 1,200.
Bulking.
She was eating good. A 1,200 calorie meal plan. I remember I was so hungry. It was like every meal I ate I was savoring every last bite. And it was also that era of like the Halo ice cream and all of that kind of stuff, you know. And
if it fits your macros.
He gave me like a meal plan, like, and I would sneak like some Halo on the side, but I was eating very clean and I was just obsessed with the gym, sometimes doing 2-a-days every day, doing cardio. It was very exciting and new. And I was seeing like those beginner changes in my body and it was so fun.
That's what I was going to say is like in the beginning, it was so transformational for us. Mm-hmm. It was so fun and exciting because you're getting these muscles that you've never seen before in your life. Like you are able to get abs and all that. And so it was just like a time to be alive, man.
No, it really, really was. That's what I always think about people who've never lifted before. I'm like, you don't even know how good you're going to feel once you start. And you get to see just like little curves in your body that you haven't seen before. And after you've been lifting for so long, to see any little difference is so hard. Yeah. So that beginner time is just it's creme de la creme.
So at what point, like with all the lifting and then you got the trainer, at what point did you decide like, okay, I'm going to do a show?
That was, I would say 2 years after I got that trainer, and then I stopped using him and just kind of did it on my own. And then I got a coach for my first show a couple years later.
Because I think we competed in the same year almost.
Did we? I don't even
remember. Or at least a year apart.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't too far apart at all. I felt like the whole world, we kind of just went in line with whatever, like the whole fitness industry.
It was like what society was doing at the time. Like if you were in the bubble, you were competing.
Yeah.
You were getting a boob job and competing.
We missed the boob job, unfortunately. So after you got into the gym with your husband, Aiden, when did you start taking it super seriously and your diet and mindset kind of became, this is what I do now?
In typical Val fashion.
Immediately.
So I found Nikki Blackketter. I started watching all these girls on YouTube, like the OGs. And I just remember watching them on YouTube, and then they were all competing and they were all training for shows. And I was like, well, I've got to do that. And at the time I worked at Twin Peaks. And so it kind of went hand in hand with work because we had bikini contests at Twin Peaks. And I was like, well, I'll treat the Twin Peaks show like a show. Mm-hmm. And so I hired a trainer and basically prepped for the Twin Peaks show, which was super exciting. And it wasn't as intense because like you don't have to meet that same level of like leanness, dryness, or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gave me like a dip my toes in, and I honestly didn't do that great for the show. But I mean, it gave me like the practice of like getting into prep and all that. And then after that, I was like, okay, we're going to do the real deal. Like we're doing bodybuilding. And so that's when I signed up for an actual NPC competition, and I hired an NPC coach, and she was quite big on Instagram as well. And she was like an IFBB pro. So I hired her and started doing training with her.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely want you to tell them about like your meal plans and what you ate.
The sweet potato crisis?
Yes. Because I had a much different experience in my actual bodybuilding step on stage NPC era, where my coach was giving me if it fits your macros, but yours was like you can only eat fish, sweet potatoes, and egg whites, basically.
Yeah, my very first coach when I first started prepping was like, she was an IFBB pro. She was super intense, and she was very much of like clean eating, bland, dry, suck it up. This is all you get. You know, intense cardio, low calorie. So my meal plan was essentially like egg whites and oatmeal, and then it would be like sweet potatoes and chicken, and then be like fish and broccoli every day. And I got to the point where I was like, dude, can we switch it up? Like, I really don't like sweet potatoes anymore. Like, I'm so over it.
Yeah.
And she was like, if you want to be in this sport, then you just need to eat it. And I was like, okay. and then I got sick at one point, and I was like, I'm sick this week. Like, can I like veer from my macros and everything? And she was like, no, like you need to eat. And so that was really hard. And I ended up just not listening and just binging when I could on the weekends, because I would like end up getting so desperate, and then I would eat something bad. Then I'd be like, well, today's written off. So then I would just binge the whole day.
Yeah.
So I actually never ended up competing while she was coaching me. So I ended up like not working with her anymore, took a break, and then I hired another coach, planned to do another show. She put me on like flexible dieting, or if it fits your macros, and I actually ended up going through a whole, I think 16 or 12 week prep with her, and actually competed then.
For like your bodybuilding experience, did you like the experience in the gym, how it felt mentally and how it felt diet wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously pros and cons to everything. I think for me, it really mentally teaches you how disciplined you can be, and how, like, what you're capable of, I guess, if you're determined.
Yeah.
I think it just really taught me, like, I can choose today, like, okay, we're going to stick to this because we have an end goal that we're working towards. Yeah. Which I think, can play into every aspect of your life. So just having, like, that discipline. I think physically, and like it just kind of came with the culture. I think I got to a point where I was like maintaining unhealthy standards for the sake of a one-day competition. I still didn't even get to the body that I wanted to, and I was on such low calories, and like we couldn't really do anything about it at that point, because realistically I should have spent more time increasing calories, and like obviously it's easy to say now. I think like I loved building muscle. I loved feeling like I looked good. Like I loved feeling good in my body. I loved seeing progress, and that has like in itself its own mental struggle, because I think when you see how good your body looks and see it looking better and better and better every day, the flip side of that is after the competition, it's like, okay, now you're not looking worse, but you're essentially looking worse and less out of shape every single day, because you're going back to a more maintainable body versus your one day pinnacle. And I think that's where it can kind of be like much more toxic than the actual prep itself.
It can be kind of an addiction for some people, because they see themselves looking their quote unquote best at such an unrealistic body to maintain. Yeah. So it can be harmful mentally.
How was it for you though? Because you trained for your show, and then you obviously had a better experience with your coach in the dieting. So how did that pan out for you?
I honestly don't really remember much about the training portion. I remember I was just in the gym every day. We increased my cardio slowly, and the dieting wasn't really that bad. The main thing for me was I didn't even really enjoy my body when it got to the stage level. When it got to 4 or 3 weeks out, I felt like it was cutting down my muscles so much. I was just getting so incredibly skinny, and I was losing all of my butt, because I'm already naturally super quad dominant. So the little butt I had built was just the immediate first thing to go. So for me, it just felt like it wasn't worth it. And that was why I never really wanted to do it again, because I didn't even look in the mirror and like what I was seeing around like the actual stage time. I was kind of just like, meh, this is too skinny for me. So,
and you won, right?
I got first in one class and then second in the other. I forget which classes they were. So I did really good for my first time, and he wanted me to keep going, but I was just like, no, like I miss food. I don't even like my body. Like, what's the point of this? What am I gaining from doing this? Like, I don't want to stand on stage and have a bunch of people tell me if my body is good enough when I don't even like my body right now.
You got to quit while you're ahead though. You're like, first place? No, I'm retiring.
No, I could have gone on and been like an NPC pro and gotten like all of that. What I really do like is the IFBB. Is that what it is? The one in Australia? And
I think it's WBFF.
WBFF. I love that it's more focused on fashion, and they have a higher body fat percentage, so it's not as just like skin and bones. And that's honestly really unhealthy for women to do in the first place, is get
that lean.
That lean.
And that came out of it. I mean, I think as a society at the time, like a lot of women our age, so we got into fitness, got into competing, and then we all kind of went through that same wave together of like, okay, now all of our hormones are totally messed up, and now we're all trying to recover at the same time, and we're all rebounding and gaining weight and emotions and all that, and like we kind of did it all together.
Yeah,
it was nice. The camaraderie.
Yeah. I remember seeing all of these YouTube videos at the time about how I lost my period, doing shows and all of that stuff. So what a time to be alive.
So how after the show, like, did you just carry on lifting, or like how did you like transition into like everyday life again?
Yeah, I remember going to the gym and just seeing my butt kind of come back a little bit. I was so excited, and I didn't reverse diet at all, which I should have. So I feel like it kind of came on all at once to a point that I didn't like, but then I felt like I got it back to a place that I was okay with as far as my body. And yeah, I was pretty consistent for the next 4 to 5 years, obviously having seasons and weeks and all of that where I was more consistent than others. But for the most part, I knew that I wanted to make a job out of it. And so I knew that it was kind of a major priority in my life.
And you did. I mean, you became like a full-time fitness influencer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I feel like whenever I became full-time on social media, it was when I started doing OnlyFans. But I did grow a massive audience from my fitness, and I could have capitalized on it with an ebook or meal plans.
I feel like you were definitely known for your fitness.
Yeah, I was Shania Fit for a long time. You know?
What was your slogan?
Live short, post the booty pic.
Yes. When people still tag you in that, I'm like, we were here, loyal.
An era. If you guys were there for that area, I love you. Love you so much. But yeah, I was just really consistent for a long time. I didn't track macros consistently up until honestly like right now, which we'll get there. But yeah, I feel like it was kind of happy days for a while for my fitness journey. It was just kind of me loving the gym, me loving working out, flexible dieting, eating intuitively, feeling really good, really motivated, all of that stuff for the time that I was out of my bodybuilding era. But what happened for you when you got out of your bodybuilding era?
I only competed in one show, and even for that show, I just couldn't like get down to as lean as I needed to be. Just so we were already, like I said, like for the first show, even like just so low on calories. And I think realistically, I just needed a lot more like pre-prep before prepping, because if you start too low on calories for your prep, then you just get too low and you can't really lose any more weight or anything.
Yeah.
So that kind of happened for me. And so I got 6th place, which I mean, I will take it. I stepped on that stage. I did the thing. Like,
absolutely. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like I did it, and that's great, you know?
Yeah.
And so after the show, I also did not reverse diet. I felt so deprived. So I ended up just binging for like weeks. And it's so funny because I thought that I had like fully rebounded, and then I was like all of a sudden fat and gorged and gained all this weight. But then now objectively, like looking back, I'm like, what am I even thinking? Like, how do I think that I even gained weight? Like I looked so normal.
Yeah.
But after you've been prepping for so long and seeing yourself in the mirror every day, getting leaner and leaner and leaner, when you're all of a sudden going the other direction, you completely lose perspective of what your body needs to look like.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really affected me, because I think even today I have a very skewed perspective and like a very skewed body image, because I'm like comparing it to like those unrealistic, unmaintainable days, you know?
Body dysmorphia.
Yes. But after I competed, and then after I reverse dieted and rebounded, I started to get back in the gym, and I kept lifting, and I felt stronger because I was eating more after getting out of bodybuilding. And because I started to get stronger, I started to like want to lift really heavy. And I'm like, I love this so much more than doing like high volume workouts and getting leaner. Like I loved feeling strong, and I had already been like slightly above average strong, at least my lower body, from soccer and tumbling. So when I put my mind to it and actually set a routine to getting stronger, I got real strong. And that's when I basically started getting into powerlifting.
And I feel like it's a different kind of, your focus is on a different kind of progress. You take it off of your body and put it on these tangible numbers that inadvertently obviously help your body, but that's not your focus. Your focus is on something totally different.
Yeah, it's like not on appearance. Like I felt better being a little bit what I thought was like more cushiony, what I thought was like thicker. Like I look back and I wasn't even close to thick, but like I felt thicker
in comparison.
Yeah. But I felt better being what I thought was thicker because I felt stronger. Yeah.
I love that.
So that did some healing for me.
That's so good. And did you do really good at your powerlifting meet?
I competed in 2 different meets, and I got first in the first one and second in the second one, or maybe opposite. I got first in one, second in the other, and I loved it. Like, that's something I do wish that, like, at some point in my life I go back to.
Yeah, I always hear you just talking about your powerlifting days so fondly.
I do love it.
Yeah, just all around, it was like a really good time for you.
Yeah, and like I was doing it with a friend, which made it like a really nice experience, but I think like it's just such a different challenge to put on your body. And like I'm the kind of person that like I like having a goal in mind. I like having a competition in it, and like you really are competing with yourself because you're hitting PRs and you're training for that reason. But I think after coming out of bodybuilding, it really changed the perspective, because I think in bodybuilding you see the discipline that your mind can achieve, but in powerlifting it was much more so like we talk about it all the time, like how much our mind and body are connected. And the one thing I think with powerlifting that I learned is like our minds sometimes like trick us into doing less than what we're capable of.
Yeah.
And so it was really nice in powerlifting because like we would record ourselves to see our progress, our form, things like that. So like I would record myself doing like a PR on a deadlift, and mentally I'd be like, oh my God, this is so heavy. I don't think I can lift it. Like this was the hardest pull I've ever done. But then I would see it on video and I could see that my body did it easily. So then I'm like, oh, like obviously my mind just think it's hard, but like my body can handle it.
Yeah.
And then I can go and hit an even higher PR, because once you can get over the concept of like, you're just telling yourself it's hard. So I think that really helped me learn different ways to kind of negotiate with myself and like talk myself out of like hard times.
Yeah, you can definitely always do a little bit more than you think you can.
Yeah.
And I've never even done powerlifting, but I know that even just working out in the gym, I'll pick up something and be like, oh, that's definitely heavy, but I can do it. And then you go up a little bit more and then a little bit more, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And that was really fun, like that. And I think the competition side isn't reliant on your looks or appearance. It's strictly reliant on your strength that day.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really nice goal to meet.
Yeah.
So I think that was just much better for my mental health. And the only reason I really stopped doing it was because I got a new job, and then I started my businesses, and then I couldn't really, I mean, I could have, but I just didn't stay in the gym that way.
Didn't you have to work out for 2 hours or so at a time whenever you were powerlifting?
Yeah, a lot of the workouts just took a long time, not because they were like set to be 2 hours, but like if you were working towards a PR, the warm up would take so long, because you obviously need to start with a lower weight, build up to it. So that could take a long time, whether it's because you're in a busy gym or because you're racking the weights. And then if I was working out with my competition partner, and so when we're both taking turns, so like it just took a long time, because you can't really do heavy weights like that like quickly. So yeah, we spent about 2 hours in the gym, but it was nice because it completely took my mind away from the food concept, because I did need to track, because they do put you in weight classes for the meets, but it was like, it's one of those where like you want to be in the lowest weight class, but the top of that weight class, like wrestling. So I wasn't having to be strict on myself, but because I was lifting so much so frequently, I was able to eat pretty comfortably and like didn't have to stress so much about calories or eating anything like specific. And so it was nice that like I could just eat and enjoy what I was eating, knowing it was going to fuel my next workout.
Yeah, you were working your muscles so much and for so long, and you were building so much muscle that it all kind of just balances out at that point.
Yeah, which was great while I was doing it, but then I think that really affected me when I stopped competing in powerlifting, because I think I continued to eat like I was powerlifting and kept telling myself like, well, you're an athlete, you need this. And then, but I wasn't lifting like a powerlifter or at all. And that's when I started to gain weight and really had like a crisis.
Whenever I was bodybuilding, that was the first time that I ever like threw up because of food, because I like, you know what I mean? Bulimic. I had a bulimic moment. I remember I binged, and then I was just like, it's fine, I'll just throw it up. And then you just kind of like write it off, because you're like, whatever, I'm just going to eat as much as I can. And then, you know, and then I remember I was on vacation and I got food poisoning, and I was so excited kind of that I got food poisoning, because everything I would eat would just come right back up.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I don't want to make it seem like bodybuilding was all sunshine and rainbows. For me, it was very hard, but, definitely, I didn't really see it as like a big thing at the time. I was just like, oh, I'll just eat all this and it'll come right back up. It's fine.
Yeah, I think in general, sports like that do change your perspective of food, and they just change the way that you look at it. Because I think with bodybuilding, you see food as a metric, and you also lose touch of like, because especially if you're on a macro-based diet, you need to finish your macros. And so I think you kind of lose touch with like your own body, like what do you call it? Like your sensors of like when you're full, because in bodybuilding, if you're having to hit macros, you kind of have to get that food in. So even if you're not hungry, sometimes you're forcing yourself to eat. And that's where I think like I really struggled, is I lost like any intuitive eating skills because my body just like had been like declined of them for so long. And so I think even now I'm just now at a point where I'm like, okay, like I am feeling hunger, I can eat.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever I first started calorie restricting, it was insane to me, the amount of hunger that I was feeling at that time. I was like, wow, seriously, every bite was just like heaven to me, no matter what it was.
But it was almost exciting. Like I remember going to bed hungry and being like, I'm going to wake up so freaking lean because I'm so hungry right now. And I'm like, that's so bad.
Yeah, no, we don't want to be there. It's too far. Okay, so after powerlifting, what was kind of your next era in fitness?
At my lowest point in fitness, because after powerlifting, I left my corporate job and started my businesses, or my first business. And that was like immediately like all health, wellness, fitness, mental health, everything out the window for about 2-3 years. And I think I really struggled because I had it in my head like, oh, you're still an athlete. Like, because I played soccer here and there, but like I was in no way like consistently in the gym, consistently active. And I had also just switched to being vegan, and I was running my businesses, and I was on the go all the time, working like 7 to 7. And so I think I really struggled to have like a healthy balance in my diet, because since I was out of the house all the time and working like crazy, and that was my top priority, I never prepped food. And so I was always eating on the go. But because I was vegan, there weren't like a lot of on the go options. So I would like go all day just like running on energy drinks and coffee. And then at home, I would like pick up Taco Bell's and have like a bean burrito, or like 3 bean burritos at night, just to like catch up on like eating. And that was like a repeated cycle for a really long time. So I think I really fudged up my cortisol levels. I gained weight, like all that stuff. And right about around my wedding is when I started to like get back into like the gym and feel better and get some consistency. But then it was the same thing. Like after our wedding, I just kind of fell back into the routine of like not taking care of myself at all and just focusing on the businesses.
How often would you say when you were at your lowest point in your fitness did you work out? Not at all, or was it just very sporadic? Would you like get on the horse and then fall off every week? Yeah,
it would be like, this week I'm going to really get back to it, and then I'd go to the gym 2 or 3 times, and then I would be off again for like a month. And it was really, it took a major toll on my mental health, because I remember even visiting you in LA, and like I'm a short person, like I'm 4'11", and I had put on, over the 3 years that I started a business from powerlifting to like present day, I put on 20 pounds, and like that's quite a lot on someone who's 4'11".
Yeah.
And I just remember being so uncomfortable in my body, and like I just felt uncomfortable. I knew I wasn't making it a priority, so then I would have like the cycle of like guilt of like, well, you know better, like you know how to be in the gym, you know how to eat healthy, but you're just not doing it. And then I would just get so worked up over it. I remember just like crying at your place in LA, being like, this just sucks. And like it's hard because like you have total control. But then when you know you're not doing it, you're like, well, what the hell?
Yeah, I think, though, for anyone who is invested in their fitness long term, to expect yourself to be your fittest self at all times is so hard, but we do it anyways. We don't allow ourselves grace whenever that's like a priority for us to feel good and feel good in our body. We just don't ever allow ourselves like a period of, okay, I'm just gonna give myself a break for a little bit. It's always, I'm gonna get back on it Monday. I'm gonna get back on it tomorrow. I'm gonna eat healthy tomorrow. And then it's an endless cycle, and then you just feel guilty.
And I think I had no concept, because we had never had to have a concept of like a casual, comfortable, maintainable fitness life, because growing up, I played 3 or 4 sports my whole life. I graduated high school. I played sports in college. I started bodybuilding. I started powerlifting. So there was no time in my life where I was just being fit for the sake of being healthy.
Yeah.
It was always for a sport or a competition, or for my appearance when I was working at Twin Peaks, Hooters, bikini competitions. So I had no concept of just taking care of myself for the sake of being healthy. And so I just didn't even know what that looked like. And so I had to like really go through like a lot of like mental like reprogramming to recognize you are no longer an athlete. You don't need to look like an athlete, but you do need to take care of yourself. And like, what is that? What does that look like while you're running businesses? What does that look like while you're not having to compete? Like, it doesn't have to be 5 days a week, this many calories. Like, it can be 2 or 3 days a week consistently with some walking here and there. So I had to like really like freaking get that through my thick head.
Well, for you, I can see that because you're such an all or nothing type of person. So if you're going to do anything in your life, you want to be the best.
Yeah.
And for you, I'm sure
The most balanced.
Yes. The most healthy, the most feeling good. Yeah. So I'm sure it was really hard for you, especially because that was your only idea of what fitness looked like, was what you previously experienced. So it took you just about as long to figure out. It didn't have to be like that.
Yeah, and not to mention like the identity crisis, because when I was in college, like fitness was my identity, like looking good and working at the bar was my identity, and then I was powerlifting and that was my thing. But then when I started my businesses, like being an entrepreneur was my identity. And so I think like I had to even work around not just being healthy, but also like finding what interests me, like how do I like to feel? How do I want to take care of myself? Like all these things outside of like my one big goal, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's such a good point, that you have to figure out what type of working out looks best for, or works best for you. It doesn't have to be bodybuilding. It can be spin classes or Pilates or running or swimming. There's so many different types of workouts, and you can switch in between and, you know, just go with however you're feeling. I feel like we get so caught up in how is this going to make my body look instead of how do I have fun when I'm doing it?
Yeah.
Does it feel good and stuff like that?
I think the same thing applies to food too. Like I think we just get caught up in like labels of like, I lift weights, so I can only lift weights. I eat vegan, so I can only be vegan forever. I think we just get caught up in like having to have some sort of like restriction.
A box.
Yeah. When it's like, why? Like what for?
Yeah, exactly. Let yourself have fun with fitness and experience it and step out of the box. And I always feel like I get a little bit more motivation whenever I do something that's, you know, different than what I typically do. I'm like, okay, this is fun.
Yeah.
For me, after I was very consistent and motivated and on my shit for the most part for a while. In that period is when I went plant-based, vegan, and I was intuitively eating and I was feeling really good. I've always had on and off like IBS symptoms, but aside from that, like my food was feeling really good for me. Whenever I hit my downfall was around the pandemic in LA. I tried to start off strong. I was sprinting every day and going on runs and doing at-home workouts. But in LA, especially for like a year or more, everything was shut down.
Yeah.
Even my apartment gym, like everything. I was trying to run up and down stairs that I would find.
I remember running with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots and lots of outdoor workouts, which was fun. But I think just the combination of living on my own, working out on my own, trying to just self-start in every aspect of my life.
That's hard.
It's really hard. It's really, really hard. I think loneliness is one of the most unhealthy things that you can ever experience. Like, I think it's so detrimental.
Yeah.
Like knowing firsthand how it felt. I think after a while of doing all of that, I just kind of stopped caring and I just got to a bad place mentally. And I think that just like reflected on my workouts and stuff like that. So I was kind of how you were. I would just go for a little bit and then I would fall off. And then it was more so like 3 or 4 days a week or 2 days a week. And then was just really all over the place with fitness for honestly the entire time up until now. I feel like I've gotten a lot more consistent, a lot more like motivated, and to a place where I feel better about it. But the pandemic and after my butt implants and all of that and the recovery, I feel like I was just so sporadic with my fitness.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I feel like you went through a lot of different changes because when the pandemic hit, you were living in your roommate situation, and that was hard enough as it is. But I remember you saying, like, it's really hard when, like, your bedroom and living room are, like, your office, your gym, your lounge, like, your community area. So it's, like, it's really hard. But, like, even having the discipline to work out at home in itself is really hard when you could easily just, like, lay on the couch.
Yeah, and that's not my vibe at all either. I know it might be some people's. Some people love an at-home workout, and that's amazing. But for me, I do not like it. I feed off people's energy, even if that's me working out on my own, but I'm at a gym and there's other energies around me. I definitely like to get out of my home when I work out. So that was, it just made me kind of like lose interest in it a bit, because that's kind of what I was forced into. And I feel like I wasn't seeing like the changes or anything that I wanted to see. So it was kind of just like meh all the way around. Yeah,
no, I can imagine. I don't think I'd have the discipline to work out from home whatsoever.
No, it was not a vibe at all. But yeah, I learned a lot from it. And I learned that like what I need to function at a certain level is not to put myself just all alone. I definitely need to feed off of people's energy, like going to classes and stuff like that. So yeah, after your downfall for you though, what was kind of the turning point of when you started to get back to a healthier place with fitness?
I think we just got here.
Yeah, same.
Like we just arrived.
Same.
I think during the pandemic, it did give me like a reality check though, because with lockdown, it forced me to work less. And I think with being able to work less, but guilt-free, because there was like an outside cause of that, I was able to really reel things back and be like, okay, like I have the time on my hands now. Yeah. And so that's when I picked up walking. And so I just like walked like 5-10 miles a day.
That's a good workout.
It was so nice though, because it was like spring in Texas. And I remember telling my husband, I was like, I am thriving. And obviously that's, comes with a lot of privilege, because the pandemic was really hard for so many people. But for me, it was like really great circumstances to give me a breather. And because I was still working, my company was still functioning. We were just doing everything remotely. My husband was home all the time because he was working remotely, and the weather was nice because it was March in Texas. And so I was just able to like walk every day, come home and do my handstands and my stretches, like cooking from home every day, like fresh meals, because fast food was kind of shut down. So it was really nice. And then I told my husband, I was like, don't ever let me go back to my old habits. Like, don't do it. And then I feel like for a minute I was good, but then as obviously Texas opened up and like went back to normal quite quickly. So as things started to reopen, we started to get a lot busier because people saw how prevalent like their online presence was, which is what we do for business. Yeah. So like we got really busy with work, and like I just didn't pace myself. Like I just let myself go straight back into old habits. And I think I did that probably a year or two. And then I had a major burnout experience last year and like a whole come to Jesus of like, okay, 2023, we gotta fix this, because I cannot maintain these bad habits, because I'm not going to be able to build my businesses, be a good wife, be a good friend. Like I won't be able to do anything that I want to do if I don't like fix shit.
Yeah, for me, just being an outsider looking in, I feel like whenever you really got comfortable with fitness again, or just back into a good routine that you were happy with, it was kind of around when you started F45.
Yeah, I got really into it probably this year. I think I just had to have with therapy and my therapist, like we had a real like reality check of like, what do I want my life and my habits and my lifestyle to look like? How do we get there? And I think at the beginning of the year, being an all or nothing person, I just had to really change my expectations of myself. And I told myself at the beginning of the year, like, I don't want to get to summer and hate how I feel in my body. I don't want to get to summer and be so uncomfortable in a bikini that I'm missing out on social events. Like, I just wanted to change my relationship with my body, with food, with the gym. So at the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, we're building what our new lifestyle can look like as a business owner who stays healthy. Like, this is not me as an athlete. This is not me as a competitor. Like, this is me just being a normal freaking person that goes to the gym. And I think like that helped me create more realistic goals that I could actually achieve. So at the beginning of the year, my goal was just get back in the gym 3 days a week. And it was 3 days, no more, no less. Because I think my other problem is, because I'm such an extremist, that if I go 3 times and I feel good, I'll go 6. But then next week I'll have done too much and I won't go the next week. And then I'm already off like my routine. So it was just hit my 3 days, no more, no less. We accomplished it. Great job, Val. Now we start again next week. And I think making it smaller and more achievable helped me stick with it. So this was maybe last January, I think. I ended up sticking with it. So I think from last January till summer, last summer I bumped it up to like 4 days a week. And then I kept that until like February this year. And now I'm like, okay, 5 days a week plus yoga and a walk. And I just it took time. It took almost 2 years. And I think I just had to tell myself, like, we're sick of feeling like this. We know that it takes progress. It takes slow baby steps. Like, we just need to suck it up and take those steps, because if you don't take any steps, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. And it's so real what you said about you don't want to feel bad about yourself in a swimsuit or miss out on these experiences because of how you feel. Because I feel like everyone can relate to being out somewhere and just not feeling good, like not feeling good about your body.
It's the worst.
You just can't have fun. Like, you're so just upset at yourself and you just don't feel confident. And then another thing about confidence is what you said about kind of breaking your goals down to like the minimal amount that you knew you could achieve. I heard on a podcast, I feel like it's kind of a quote that's going around right now that's like, confidence comes from keeping promises you make to yourself. Yeah. So the more you can keep those promises and not overextend yourself to a point that you're going to guilt yourself when you don't meet them, I feel like that is like the recipe for success. If you just little by little keep making those promises and like what you did, kind of just build them up and build them up.
Yeah. And I think it's important, like when making small achievable goals, that you celebrate them too. Like after the week, I hit my 3 workouts and I'm like, go me. Yeah. You know, don't be like, oh, only 3, I'm so lazy. It's like, no, like you did exactly what you set out to do. Like, great job.
That's how you reinforce a habit, is by giving yourself a reward.
Positive reinforcement for yourself.
Yeah. If you set your goals.
We're like dogs. I'm just kidding.
We're animals, baby.
True.
If you reward yourself after doing something, the likelihood that you're going to continue doing it is so much higher than if you were to overextend yourself. Like, say I'm going to go 2-a-days all week and then you don't meet that and then you beat yourself up about it. You're probably not going to go at all next week.
No, exactly. Yeah. And that made a big change for me. So I feel like I'm just now in present day in a better place with my body, with my workouts. I'm not where I quite like what my end goal, whatever that is. Like, I'm not there, but I feel so much better in my body. I feel like I've got more energy. I feel so much better at the gym, and all around I feel better. But I think it's also not waiting until the end of like, I want to look even better. I have goals that I want to reach, like physically, mentally, and all that. But like, I'm also really happy with how far I've come and like acknowledging that too.
Yeah. On a good track.
Yeah.
On a good track for sure. Proud of you.
How about you? Where are you at present day?
So this year, whenever I moved to Dallas, I was addicted to a Juul, and it was making me curb my appetite a lot. So I remember looking back when I first moved to Dallas, and I was really, really lean, but it wasn't because I was like working out. I wasn't not working out. I was working out about like 3-4 times a week, but I was just kind of killing my metabolism by not eating because I was addicted to Juuls or nicotine. And after that, I kind of gained weight, and I felt like just lost a bit of muscle and just kind of got to a maintenance point that I wasn't really happy with. And then since then, it's kind of been a roller coaster I've been consistent in the gym, but I just kept expecting myself to be the same level I was whenever I was just giving the gym and my nutrition my all, and not really understanding why it wasn't happening for me. And I weighed the most I've ever weighed like a month ago. I weighed 130, which I've always sat around 120. And like you said, 10 pounds isn't that much, but whenever you're so small
Mm.
and you're so used to seeing yourself for so long at a certain weight.
Yeah.
It's really weird. And so that was when I was like, okay, I need to get it together. Because I was even just last month, I was eating really, really clean for 4 days of the week. And then the next 3, I would binge like Pop-Tarts and lo mein and cookies and just anything I could get my hands on. And then it was a cycle. So I wasn't seeing much progress. But recently, this month, I've just started Whole30. I've started dancing again. I've started going to the gym consistently like 5 days a week and really, really putting my all into my workouts. And I've seen such a change in my body. I've lost 6 pounds since I've started Whole30. So I feel like I'm still not even at my normal weight, but I'm just seeing my body change again. And it's really motivating because I'm like, I haven't seen this in so long, so it's really nice. And I feel like I am getting to a place where I'm just like, honestly, this month where I'm excited about fitness. I love looking forward to my goals and making my goals and just getting back into it.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to like note is that like neither of us have ever thought that we looked bad or like looked unhealthy or out of shape, but there is a comfort level in your own body of like, when you feel your best, when you feel happy with how you look in the mirror, and like that matters. Like you don't have to be like by standards like obese or unhealthy to not be comfortable and want to improve your health.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this too, obviously off the podcast, about like we never want to feel hungry to the point that it's affecting our energy anymore. Like I never want to go into the gym and just be like so dead from not having any energy from food ever again. I don't care how lean that would make me or how many abs that would give me. Like nothing will be worth feeling like that.
Yeah, I think we're both at that stage in our like health and fitness journey that like we very much base our habits and our moves around how we feel in our body. Like it's not obviously we both want to look good and like look our best, but like not at the expense of feeling like shit.
Yeah, absolutely not. I don't think it's worth it at that point because it's just you have no life. Your life is basically revolving around your hunger, and that is not fun.
No hangry girls here.
No.
Only hot girls.
Yes, only hot girls crying.
Crying.
Okay, so I want us to ask a couple questions we got on the little question box. I think we have just a couple. The first one is thoughts on weight loss drugs like Ozempic.
I personally don't know a whole lot about it. Like I don't really keep up with that stuff that much. I know it like does some magic.
Some voodoo.
Not sure how or what, but it seems to be working.
It slows down your digestive system so that you don't feel hungry. And it's for people who have diabetes.
That's the whole controversy, right?
Yeah, because it's making it inaccessible to people who do actually have an insulin resistance and things like that and can't get their medications.
I personally think like everyone can do what they want with their body. Everyone has different goals and reasoning behind what they're doing. But I personally think like our body has a natural way that it wants to function. And I think countering that in any way can have its negative effects.
Yes.
But I mean, then you could say that about like birth control. And I'm like all for birth control. And that's preventing our body from doing something. So I think it just, it's a personal decision. I think it's just what are the long-term effects and can you maintain it? Like, is it going to make you feel good now, but shit later?
Yeah. For me, it seems like it's a lot like Adderall, but kind of in a different way. It's a drug that people take for weight loss that's not meant for weight loss. And it has adverse effects, and stuff like that. I'm so pro surgery, pro altering, pro doing whatever you need to do unnaturally to like the way that you look. I think we have modern medicine. We should use it to our disposal as we see fit. My biggest thing that I worry about is for the people who it slows down your digestion and then you don't have an appetite. I know firsthand that not having an appetite can really kill your metabolism. and put your body into survival mode.
Yeah.
So I just worry that people aren't eating enough. And then if they ever want to get off of it, they're going to be in a worse place than they ever started off with to begin with.
Yeah. I think hacks are great, but it just depends on at what expense. And it's like, is that expense worth it to you?
Yeah. A guy came into the bar when I was bartending the other day, and he was telling me that he's on Ozempic and he's lost a lot of weight, but he has no appetite. And he sat down, and I don't know his whole life. This might have been his treat meal or whatever. I don't know. But he ordered like a cheeseburger and had like 3 sweet teas that day. So if it's that type of situation where you're taking it and then not eating all day and then having a bad meal, I know whenever you get off of it, it's going to be really bad. So I think if you can come at it from like, okay, I'm going to use this as a tool to help me lose these couple pounds, and I'm going to make sure I track my macros so I don't undereat because my body doesn't have that hunger response, and, you know, build muscle while I'm on this so that whenever I do want to transition off of it, I can maintain.
Yeah. And I think it's all relative. Like I said, like I don't know a whole lot about it, but if you're in a position where having no appetite is you eating a healthy amount of calories opposed to maybe overeating, then like great, like that's a hack. But I think it just really depends. Like if you're now have no appetite and you're binging, you know, I think it all just comes down to like, what's the healthiest way to go about this that your body's going to like long term.
Yeah, I definitely think it shouldn't be your first resort as well.
Yeah,
like,
I think everything comes with healthy exercise and food relationship. Like every single hack is like, but of course maintain this on the side.
Yeah, definitely. You want to do things that make you feel good as well. Like we mentioned, you don't want to just do things for aesthetic purposes, because I feel like no matter what, it's gonna come at a price. You know,
for sure.
The yin and yang of life. Next question is being in a relationship and how that affects your health, fitness goals, lifestyle.
You go first.
Oh gosh, Joshua Laney. I think whenever we started dating and I really got comfortable is a big reason that I like reached my highest weight that I had, because he just eats so bad.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy. He's 6'5" and 260 pounds for people who don't know him. He's very big, and he does not have the best eating habits. He has the pantry of an unsupervised toddler. He has Oreos, Pop-Tarts, cereal. Like he's trying to get better, and he's trying to get back on his bodybuilding stuff himself, but he can kind of eat pretty bad and not have too many repercussions from it.
Yeah.
So I think when I'm with him, I'm just like, oh, it's fine. Like I'll just, indulge and all of that. So I think who you are is always going to have an effect on what you eat, what you do, all of that. If you're around treats and people eating badly, it can result in you doing the same thing. And I think that's exactly what happened. So I think putting myself on Whole30 and really giving myself a goal, which I put myself on Whole30 because I was having digestive issues. But I think that really did help me just like really say no to all of the things that I was surrounded by dating him. So yeah, it's definitely negatively impacted my eating. I will say that. But I think it's just one of those things you have to have a lot of self-awareness and just realize like they're their own person, and I have to have the discipline to manage my own food intake.
Yeah, I'm like in the exact same boat because my husband, he is not 6'5", but he does also have the diet interests of a toddler. Like if I let him, he'd probably just eat cereal every single meal, and that's great for him. But he also has has always had like a super active job, so he's always had pretty fast metabolism, and just genetically he's a bit like thinner and can maintain that easily. And so for all of our relationship, like it's been one of those where he can sit there and eat burgers and fries and desserts and wake up with a 6-pack, and I'm over here like gotta go to the gym in the morning. And I think that sucks, because like that makes it hard, because when you are in a comfortable relationship, like you want to kind of like have those, like that's one of our favorite things to do. Like we bond over food, and like we're quite foodies. Like we love to go out and try the new restaurant and the new desserts. Like we love that. But it's just something like we've had to kind of find a balance of like, I just have to be able to tell him, we're not eating like shit today. Like it's Saturday night, like let's have a healthier alternative. And I think now that he's getting a little bit older, and he would hate to hear me say this, but like now that he's getting a little bit older and he's working like in an office, I think he's just like seeing the effects a bit more of like, okay, you kind of have to try a little bit hard to maintain, you know, a healthy lifestyle. So it's good because we're kind of on the same page now. But I think for a long time, like it would just be so hard to like just see him eat whatever. And I'm like, well, I wanted to sit here and eat whatever. Yeah. And I would start to like match what he was eating. And then I'm eating like way more than I should. And he obviously would never say like, oh, like, I can tell that you've been eating bad or like whatever. So it's hard because he's always telling me like I look so good and this and that. And I'm like, I don't feel good.
Same. Whenever I was, and I think they say that because they hear you talk about like, oh, I don't like how I look right now. And then they try to pick you up. Like, and I'm sure
they probably do.
They love it no matter what.
But like, I don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about like you feeling like your most confident self. So I would say definitely being in a relationship with a guy because they just, I feel like typically, not all of them, but typically they eat worse and can get away with a lot more in terms of their eating typically. It does add a layer.
Yeah, I think who you surround yourself definitely is always going to have an influence. But like that's what made a big difference for me was hanging out with you and seeing how you had a disciplined lifestyle and healthy. And it was very like revolved around your wellness. And so like that influenced me. But then it's like when you go home to your partner who's eating candy for dinner, it's kind of like, how do I do both?
Yeah. It's like one mindset shift to another.
Yeah,
100%. Okay. The next question is, what diets, food, lifestyle changes have worked for you guys in feeling better overall?
I think for me, like a balanced one, like right now, like I love a good restriction. I love a good challenge. But right now I'm just like, no challenges, no restrictions, just eat good, eat what makes you feel good. I'm eating a healthy amount of calories that fuels my workout, but I'm not in a deficit. I'm working out a good amount of times, but I'm not overdoing it. If I miss a day, I miss a day, but I definitely am more disciplined to know that like, if I go to the gym today, I'll feel better. So I've made it a point now where it's like, it's just part of my day. It's not a chore. And same thing with eating. Like I know like if I eat better tonight, I'm going to wake up and have a better day tomorrow. So I think just like getting to this point of balance, which is very new for me, has really, it's somehow worked. Imagine that.
No, that's awesome. I think that's the gold standard. You know, that's kind of just the place you want to be at.
Like even when you said you were doing Whole30, you're like, do it with me. And I'm like, oh, I want to. But I'm just like, no, we're in a good place. Like, let's not add restrictions.
Yeah. See, I had to do it because I knew I wasn't. And it was just kind of like the season I knew I needed to be in. And I was, main reason I didn't was because I was having issues. But
I know myself. I know that if I immediately was like going into it, I'd be like, we're going to do it. And then it's just like, why? There was no need. Like, you're doing fine. Like, why change anything?
Yeah. For me, I think the biggest thing that really, really helps me is meal prepping. I love to have like a full day of just prepping all of my meals for the week, and it takes all of the stress out of eating for the rest of the week, and also just making really, really good recipes so that you're not eating just chicken and rice and it's kind of just like blah. Like even on Whole30, I've been able to make such good food, and I think that's really important for anybody eating. I don't ever think eating should be just a chore or something that's not a good experience ever, because I think that's going to have bad repercussions around food in the long term. So yeah, I think meal prepping for me has been game changing. I think for me, Whole30 right now has been really, really, really nice. I think just as an experiment in general, to see all of the additives and just to know what eating all whole foods really looks like or can look like in your diet, so that you know, kind of like whenever you count macros, you kind of have an idea of like, okay, this is when you go into intuitive eating. So if you are feeling like you want to take on a little experiment or challenge or something like that, that could be fun for you, or doing 75 soft or 75 hard. If you're feeling like you want to do that or you need to do that, that can be fun, but only if you view it as so, not as like, I need to do this in order to feel good. So yeah, it's kind of been what's working for me lately.
And I think that's like two really great examples of, you know, awareness is key. Like, I think like you said with like flexible dieting and if it fits your macros, like you're just much more aware of like what a serving size is, like how many calories are in this and like what additives are in some things. I think like awareness is huge and like getting to a point where like you just have a better understanding, and that's like goes for anything in life.
Yeah.
But and also planning, just like the more you can plan, you know, the more effectively you can like accomplish something. And so what is it? You fail to plan and plan to fail.
Yes, ma'am. That's my favorite quote.
Is it?
Yeah, I love that quote. Well, it's not my favorite quote, but it's my favorite, like, dewy quote, you know? My favorite motivational type of quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live by it.
That's it. Well, I think that's all of our questions. Slay.